The gates to Palm Shore Estate whispered open, revealing rows of pristine, white-walled duplexes framed by hibiscus hedges and palm trees swaying lazily in the late afternoon breeze. Somewhere beyond the manicured lawns and private security patrols, I was meant to find peace, start fresh, and, hopefully, finish my next novel without distractions. I rolled to a stop in front of my new duplex, sleek and modern, with tall bay windows and a neat front garden edged in low marble. It wasn't the sprawling mansion some of the neighbors enjoyed, but it was mine, or at least mine to rent, the kind of place where you imagined evening walks under fairy-lit palm fronds, maybe a neighborly smile or two. I stepped out of the car, Lagos humidity curling the edges of my shoulder-length hair. My dusty jeans bore the proof of a long, moving day, and my fitted white blouse was creased from hours behind the wheel. But for now, I just wanted to get inside, kick off my sneakers, and collapse. From the passenger seat came a sharp whine. Cola, my cream-colored Labrador, wagged his tail so hard the entire car shook. "Hold on, Mr. Trouble," I said, snapping on his leash before he could launch himself into my new life uninvited. The estate was still. A gardener's shears clicked softly down the street. A security SUV rolled past at a lazy crawl. Perfectly peaceful, until the low purr of an engine broke the silence. A glossy black Range Rover autobiography slid to a halt behind me. No honk, no impatient revving, just waiting. My stomach tightened as I turned. The man in the driver's seat didn't move at first. He simply looked at me, one hand resting on the wheel with the kind of deliberate stillness that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. When he finally stepped out, it was with the quiet precision of someone who didn't need to announce his presence to command attention. Tall, broad shoulders, fitted black shirt that hinted at muscle under control, close-cropped hair, and those eyes, dark but not soft. The kind that measured you in seconds and decided exactly how much you mattered. "You're in my spot," he said. His voice was deep, clipped, with an edge that made me stand straighter. I glanced down and sure enough, a small painted 17 gleamed on the driveway. My driveway was next door. "Oh, right, sorry," I said, heat rising to my cheeks. "I didn't realize. I just assumed. Never mind, I'll move." He didn't nod, didn't smile, just stood there as I scrambled back into my car and reversed into the correct space. Only when I was parked did he walk past me, his cologne, something rich and sharp, brushing the air between us. Without another word, he disappeared into the duplex opposite mine. Cola wagged his tail like we'd just met a celebrity. "Well," I muttered, scratching behind his ears, "I guess we won't be borrowing palm wine from him anytime soon." Cola barked happily, completely missing my sarcasm. By late evening, I'd unpacked just enough to make the living room livable. I curled into my soft gray couch with a mug of coffee that had already gone lukewarm. Cola sprawled by the tall front window, his ears twitching at every sound. "What is it now?" I asked, following his gaze. Across the street, Mr. Driveway, or maybe Major Moodkill, had emerged. He wore a black athletic tee and loose track pants, his hands wrapped in tape as he worked a heavy punching bag set up on his front patio. I told myself I wasn't staring. I was observing. Research for my next book. That was all. Except the way he moved, the precision, the power, every strike sharp and purposeful, was hypnotic. He wasn't just fit, he was disciplined. Like every motion was a calculation. I tore my gaze away. Not my business. Unfortunately, Cola had other plans. One sharp bark later, he bolted for the door, nudging it open and darting across the street like a cream-colored missile. "Look, Cola!" I shouted, chasing after him. Khalifa turned at the sound, just in time for 60 pounds of Labrador enthusiasm to crash into him. My heart stopped. "Oh my God!" I reached them, breathless. Cola was practically trying to scale him like a tree, tail wagging furiously. "I am so sorry." With one hand, Asher gripped Cola's collar, holding him at bay with effortless strength. His expression didn't flicker as he looked from the dog to me. "Oh," I snapped my fingers. "Cola, here." Reluctantly, my dog trotted back, panting like he'd just met his new best friend. I clipped his leash firmly. He's friendly, I said, still catching my breath. I noticed, Asher replied evenly. You okay? I asked. You should keep him on a leash, he said. Not unkind, but flat. A statement, not advice. I folded my arms. Maybe if you smiled once in a while, he wouldn't feel the need to brighten your day. Something, maybe irritation, maybe amusement, twitched at the corner of his jaw, but he didn't bite, just turned and walked back into his house, closing the door with quiet finality. I looked down at Kola. I think we just declared war. Kola wagged in agreement. And for the first time since I moved into Palm Shore Estate, I had the distinct feeling that life here was about to get very, very interesting. I woke to the sound of Kola whining softly at my bedroom door. For a dog with enough energy to power Echo Atlantic, he's surprisingly polite in the mornings. No barking, no dramatic pawing, just a gentle whimper that said, "Hey, I've been patient, but nature is calling." I wasn't a morning person, but after yesterday's driveway fiasco and Kola's daring street invasion, I wasn't about to risk him running loose again. All right, I groaned, dragging myself out of bed. I slipped into a light gray hoodie over my tank top and stepped out with Kola securely leashed. The early Lagos sun was just beginning to paint the palm-lined street in gold. The estate was quiet, save for the distant hum of a gardener's trimmer somewhere down the lane. And because the universe loves drama, he stepped out of his house at the exact same time. Asher Khalifa. Today's version, all black joggers, a fitted long-sleeve top, and a black duffel slung over one broad shoulder. His hair was still damp, and the way he moved, that same military precision, unhurried but purposeful, made me instinctively straighten my spine. Kola, however, had no respect for boundaries. One look at Asher and his tail started wagging, like he'd spotted royalty. Not this time, buddy, I muttered, tightening my grip on the leash. Asher's gaze flicked from me to Kola. He listens when you want him to. I arched a brow. He listens when he feels like it. For a split second, something at the corner of his mouth twitched. So subtle I might have imagined it. We stood there in a charged silence. I knew I should just head off, but yesterday's awkward start nagged at me. I cleared my throat. Look, about yesterday. I really didn't mean to park in your spot. I didn't see the number painted on the driveway. He gave a single, measured nod. Noted. Another beat of silence. And thanks for not, punting my dog across the street, I added. That earned me the faintest raise of one eyebrow. Didn't see a reason to. Still, appreciate it. There it was, the tiniest flicker in those dark eyes, like amusement trying to escape before he slammed the door on it. Do you ever use full sentences? I asked. When necessary. I let out a short laugh. Wow, you are a joy. No reply, just that unreadable, assessing stare. All right, Major Moodkill, I said, tugging Kola toward our side of the street. I'll see you around. Something shifted in his expression then, a subtle flicker, almost like reluctant exasperation. Asher, he said. I paused. What? My name. Asher Khalifa. Oh, I said, slightly caught off guard. And you're only telling me this now? You never asked. I scoffed. Right, because our dynamic has been so friendly and welcoming. He tilted his head. And you? Karina Paluma. He nodded once. Noted. I folded my arms. That's it? No nice to meet you, neighbor. No grand gestures of goodwill? I don't do grand gestures. Shocking, I deadpanned. He gave a faint shrug and started down his driveway. So, Asher, do you live alone? I called after him, not even pretending I wasn't being nosy. He stopped mid-step, glancing back. Yes. Shame, I said thoughtfully. Would have loved to meet Mrs. Moodkill. This time I almost caught a smirk before he looked away. Well, I said, gesturing at him, since you're hot and broody, I'm going to assume you have a tragic backstory and leave it at that. His jaw tightened, but instead of answering, he just continued walking. I watched him go, then looked down at Kola. Well, buddy, at least now we know what to write on his tombstone. died of fun deprivation. Kola barked in agreement, and we headed inside. By evening, I'd managed to avoid my neighbor completely. I should have been focused on my manuscript, but the blinking cursor mocked me from my laptop screen. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, unmoving. This is ridiculous, I muttered, slumping back into the couch. I moved here for peace and quiet, and somehow my brain still refuses to cooperate. Kola lifted his head, unimpressed. Grabbing my mug of herbal tea, I wandered to the window for a distraction. Across the street, Asher's house glowed faintly, one warm light spilling from what looked like his living room. Then the front door opened. Asher stepped outside, phone pressed to his ear. His voice carried faintly through the warm Lagos night, deep, controlled, and just sharp enough to cut through the air. He was in dark joggers and a plain black t-shirt now, his earlier sharpness softened by the hour, though every movement was still deliberate. I should have looked away. Instead, I found myself studying the furrow between his brows, the tension in his jaw. Whoever he was speaking to, it wasn't a friendly call. Then his gaze flicked toward my side of the street. I ducked out of sight so fast I nearly spilled my tea. My heart thumped in my chest. Smooth, Karina. Very smooth, I whispered to myself. I didn't know what Asher Khalifa's story was, and I told myself I didn't want to. He could keep his brooding, secretive life, and I'd keep mine. Still, as I curled back into my couch, I knew one thing for certain. Ignoring him was going to be impossible. Mornings and I have never been friends. If I had my way, the day wouldn't start until noon. But apparently Kola disagreed. The moment the first hint of sunlight crept through my curtains, he was up, tail wagging like a metronome on overdrive, bouncing at the edge of my bed, and worst of all, shoving his wet nose right into my face. Kola, I groaned, pushing him away with zero conviction. This is why people get cats. He whined as if I had just accused him of treason. Fine, you win, I muttered, dragging myself out of bed. But don't think I don't see what you're doing. You're trying to convert me into a morning person, aren't you? Kola's tail wagged harder. With a hoodie thrown over my tank top and hair barely tamed by a quick brush, I clipped on his leash and stepped out into the crisp Lagos morning. The estate was just beginning to stir. A few neighbors jogged past in sleek athleisure, nodding politely. It could have been peaceful, except for the sound of a garage door rolling open. Of course! Like clockwork, Asher Khalifa stepped out, dressed in, you guessed it, black from head to toe. Black joggers, black long-sleeve top, black trainers. I was starting to think color physically offended him. A black duffel hung casually from one shoulder, and even at this hour he moved with a quiet, calculated precision that made you feel as if you were in the presence of someone important, someone dangerous. His gaze flicked to me for all of half a second before sliding away, as if acknowledging me was just another item on his to-do list. Naturally, I took offense. Morning, Major Moodkill, I called out. Nothing. Wow, I muttered. Not even a grunt? Kola, eager to win his approval, barked and pulled forward like a furry traitor. Asher stopped mid-step, eyes shifting from Kola to me. Control your dog. I put a hand on my hip. Control your personality. Something flickered in his eyes, so quick I almost missed it. Amusement, maybe? But before I could decide, Kola lunged forward with the force of a cannonball. The leash jerked hard, pulling me off balance, and in the next second crashed right into Asher Khalifa. It was like slamming into a wall, if that wall smelled unfairly good and was made of solid muscle. I froze, my face far too close to his chest for comfort. He didn't so much as sway. I managed. His gaze met mine, cool and unreadable. Are you done? Scowling, I stepped back. It's called gravity, Asher. Maybe you've heard of it. Your dog needs discipline, he replied flatly. I glanced at Kola, who was wagging his tail like an idiot. My dog needs better taste in men. The faintest tightening of his jaw, then, move. I blinked. Excuse me? You're standing in my way. Sure enough, I'd managed to plant myself directly in front of his path to a waiting matte black Range Rover that matched his mood. I stepped aside with an exaggerated flourish. By all means, don't let me or joy slow you down. Without another word, he walked past, opened his car, and drove off, expressionless to the last. Only when he was gone did I exhale. Cola barked happily, utterly oblivious to my humiliation. Glad one of us is enjoying this, I muttered. That afternoon I decided to settle in properly. Unpacking boxes? Too much effort. But arranging my bookshelves? That was a battle I was ready to fight. 2 hours later I was deep into deciding which titles deserved prime, eye-level real estate when a knock at the door interrupted me. Cola, I said, glancing at him. You expecting someone? He tilted his head. Opening the door, I found, of course, Khalifa. I blinked. Wow, you do know where my front door is? Ignoring my jab, he held out a set of keys. My keys, I realized, patting my hoodie pockets. You dropped them in my driveway, he said simply. Oh, thanks, Major. Asher, he interrupted. Voice steady but edged with something I couldn't place. I smirked, taking the keys from him. Fine, Asher. His jaw ticked. You know, I said, leaning against the doorframe, this is the part where neighbors attempt small talk. Silence. Okay, just one question, I pressed. He sighed. What? Do you ever smile? His stare could have intimidated a weaker person. I was not a weaker person. I was me, annoyingly persistent and possibly on a mission to poke the bear until it roared. And I could swear, just for a second, his lips twitched. But without a word, he turned and walked away. Closing the door, I grinned to myself. Oh, Cola, I said, scratching his ears. I think we just found my new favorite hobby. Cola barked in agreement. And just like that, my quiet new life? Yeah, not so quiet anymore. If there's one thing I've learned about living across from Khalifa, it's that he has zero interest in small talk, casual greetings, or, God forbid, being friendly. Naturally, I take this as a challenge. So when I step outside the next morning, steaming coffee in one hand and Cola's leash in the other, and spot Asher locking his front door, I see my opportunity. Morning, sunshine, I call, flashing my most obnoxiously cheerful smile. Well, didn't you know, he predictably doesn't respond. Doesn't even flick his gaze in my direction. Just keeps walking toward his black Range Rover like I'm invisible. Rude. Cola, traitor that he is, barks happily and tugs toward him. See, even my dog thinks you should lighten up, I say, smirking. Still nothing? This man is a fortress, a polished, well-tailored fortress with an unlisted number. And me, I'm a menace. Naturally, I follow him. By the time he reaches his car, I'm leaning casually against the passenger side, taking a slow sip of my coffee. Big plans today, Major Mood Kill? His jaw tightens. Move. See, that wasn't a no, I tease. Karina, he says, and hearing my name in that deep, measured tone feels almost like a concession. Oh, first name basis now? How scandalous, I reply, sipping my coffee. You're really bad at this whole getting to know your neighbors thing. I don't need to know my neighbors. I gasp in mock horror. But what if I'm a secret criminal mastermind? His eyes flick to mine, utterly unimpressed. Are you? I grin. Wouldn't you like to know? For half a second, I think I catch a flicker of amusement. But then it's gone, replaced with his usual, I regret every life choice that brought me here expression. Move, he repeats. I sigh dramatically, pushing off his car. Fine, go be all broody and mysterious. He drives off without another word, leaving me and Cola in his wake. Later that evening, I'm halfway through unpacking my books when a dull thud echoes from outside. Cola perks up. I frown. Stepping onto my porch, I scan the street. At first, nothing seems unusual, until my gaze lands on Asher's driveway. He's there, leaning against the hood of his SUV, breathing hard, shoulders tense. It's wrong. Khalifa doesn't lean on things. He stands. He commands space. He controls every inch of his posture. But right now he looks winded and maybe, just maybe, in pain. I hesitate. This could be a not my business moment. I could just go inside, close the door, and pretend I never saw you. No, that's not me. Grabbing Cola's leash, I head over. You good, Major? I call lightly. No answer. Up close, I see it. The way his hand grips the hood like it's the only thing keeping him upright. Oh my God, I breathe. You're hurt. His head snaps up, eyes narrowing. Go home, Karina. I cross my arms. Yeah, that's not happening. He straightens, but I catch the subtle wince. Definitely hurt. What happened? A fight? Were you attacked? Is this some kind of secret ex-military vigilante mission? Karina. Low, warning. I grin. Knew it. Tragic backstory. It's nothing, he says. Right, because normal people casually lean against their cars like they've been in a car chase. Silence. I point at his side. You're bleeding. His gaze follows mine to the faint dark stain on his shirt. It's not serious. So what's the plan? Go inside and pretend nothing's wrong while you brew dramatically in the dark? He says nothing, which is basically a yes. You own a first aid kit? His lack of response says everything. I shake my head. Unbelievable. Men. Before he can argue, I grab his arm and start pulling him toward my front door. Karina! Oh, hush, you're not dying on my watch. To my surprise, he doesn't resist, which either means he's too tired to fight me or is secretly curious about what I'll do next. Dragging a man built like a marble statue is no easy feat, but I manage to get him onto my couch. Sit, I order. He exhales sharply, jaw flexing. You're enjoying this. I grin. Immensely. Grabbing my first aid kit, I return and kneel beside him. Shirt off. His left eyebrow twitches. Karina. I could cut it off, I offer sweetly, but it's a perfectly good shirt. He sighs like a man questioning every decision that led him here, then pulls the shirt over his head. And, wow. I knew he was built, but this was unfair. Broad chest, defined shoulders, scars that hinted at stories I hadn't heard yet. I forced my gaze to his side where an angry, shallow gash marred his skin. You gonna tell me how this happened? I ask. No. Cool. Love a man of mystery. I press an antiseptic wipe to the wound. This might sting. He doesn't even flinch. Just watches me with that intense, steady gaze. Not even a twitch? I ask. I've had worse. Yeah, you're very tough. I clean and bandage the wound, my curiosity buzzing louder than I'd admit. Where do you even go all day? Secret fight clubs? Do you have a nemesis? Are you Batman? The corner of his mouth twitches. You talk too much. And you talk too little. We balance each other out. He doesn't argue. There, I say, pressing the bandage into place. All patched up. Try not to lift heavy cars or engage in dramatic rooftop chases for a few days. He studies me for a beat, then says, Thank you. I blink. Whoa, gratitude, a full sentence. Are you sure you're Asher Khalifa? He exhales, almost a laugh, and shakes his head. Then, quietly, I was in the Marines. Oh, it explains a lot. I do security work now, he adds. It's not much, but it's more than he's shared before. Ex-Marine, now security consultant, frequently broody, occasionally injured. Got it, I say, patting his arm. You're impossible, he mutters. And yet, here you are, I reply with a grin. On my couch, bleeding on my coffee table. This time there's no mistaking it. There's definitely a trace of amusement in his eyes. I'll take it. By the next morning, I expected things to go back to normal. That is, Asher Khalifa pretending I don't exist and me pretending I'm not curious about his entire life story. But then, at 8:15 a.m., there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find him standing there, freshly showered, dressed in a crisp black Henley and dark jeans, duffel bag slung over one shoulder. The faint band of the bandage I'd applied last night peeked from under his shirt collar when he shifted. Cola, traitor that he is, bounded up to him like they'd been best friends forever. I folded my arms. You're upright. That's a good sign. What's next? Running a marathon? His jaw flexed. I need a favor. I blinked. From me? Yes. The word landed with the weight of an admission he clearly hated making. I leaned against the doorframe, smirking. You sure you've got the right house? I mean, we're still in the playful enemy stage of this relationship? His eyes narrowed slightly. It's work-related. Oh, so now I'm being drafted into whatever shadowy ex-Marine, I can't tell you or I'll have to kill you business you're in. Not exactly, he said. I've got a temporary security gap at my place. I raised a brow. Security gap? In Palm Shore Estate? Isn't the whole point of paying obscene rent here that security is airtight? His expression didn't change. The estate is secure. My work is different, which was his vague, Asherish way of saying, don't ask questions. So what's the favor? He hesitated, just long enough for me to know this was killing him. I can't have my place unattended for the next few nights. I need someone I trust to be around. I laughed. You trust me? That's adorable. He didn't rise to the bait. You're already across the street. You notice everything. And, I prompted. And Cola's bark is loud enough to make anyone think twice. I gasped. Oh my God, did you just compliment my dog? His look said I was pushing it. Okay, I said slowly. Let me get this straight. You want me to house sit? Or what, be your decoy? Just be there, he said. If anyone comes near, call me, or the police. I tilted my head, studying him. What's in it for me? That earned me the faintest, most reluctant twitch of a smirk. What do you want? Oh, I don't know, I said, pretending to think. Lifetime supply of coffee. Unlimited use of your SUV, or, I snapped my fingers, dinner. You, me, one full evening where you have to talk to me in complete sentences. He stared at me like I'd just suggested we invade a small country together. One dinner, I repeated. No monosyllables, no broody disappearing acts. For a moment, I thought he'd refuse outright, but then his jaw tightened, and he gave a single, grudging nod. Fine, one dinner, I grinned. Then you got yourself a deal, Major Moodkill. He handed me a spare key, sleek, black, and clearly custom-made. Lock up behind you, and don't go into the study. My brows shot up. Ooh, the forbidden room. Now I have to see it. Karina. Fine. I tucked the key into my hoodie pocket. But just so you know, if your house is haunted, I'm keeping Cola with me at all times. He turned to go, but I caught it, that quick glance back over his shoulder, like he was about to say something else. Instead, he just said, thank you. And then he was gone, leaving me standing there with a key to his house and about 100 questions I wasn't supposed to ask. That evening, I walked across the street just after sunset. Palm Shore was quiet, the glow from garden lamps spilling over perfectly trimmed hedges and imported stone walkways. Unlocking his front door felt weird, like stepping into a movie scene where the heroine stumbles into the mysterious loner's world for the first time. Inside, everything was dark, sleek, minimal. Black leather, steel fixtures, walls adorned with a few abstract paintings in muted tones. Not a single speck of clutter. Cola sniffed around happily, tail wagging, while I trailed behind, resisting the urge to peek into every room. I told myself this was just a simple favor. Stay in the house, make sure no one breaks in, don't die of curiosity. Easy. But as I settled on his immaculate couch, sipping tea from my travel mug, one thought kept looping in my head. For a man who clearly doesn't want company, why on earth did Khalifa just give me a key to his life? By the time I get home, Cola is waiting at the door like an over-enthusiastic welcome committee, tail thumping against the polished marble floor. I know, I sigh, setting my bag down. I abandoned you for bottomless coffee and pancakes. Tragic. He whines like I've betrayed him, then shoves his nose into my palm, demanding affection. I ruffle his ears, my mind still stuck on what my best friend Tammy said over brunch. A pattern, she'd called it, As if I had some unhealthy habit of gravitating toward emotionally unavailable men, collecting them like limited edition art pieces. Broody, quiet, intense types with enough baggage to require a customs declaration. Ridiculous. Shaking it off, I head to my small home office, determined to work on my manuscript instead of obsessing over Asher Khalifa and his perfect scowl. I crack my knuckles, stare at the blinking cursor, and nothing. 10 minutes pass, then 20. 3 words appear on the screen before I delete them. My gaze drifts to the ceiling, as though Lagos sunshine and concrete will magically deliver creative inspiration. Stupid Tammy. Stupid Asher. Stupid distractions. With a groan, I shove my chair back and decide a walk might clear my head. The moment I grab Cola's leash, he perks up, tail wagging so fast I half expect him to levitate. "All right, buddy," I sigh. "Let's go touch some grass." The estate's morning air is crisp and clean, smelling faintly of salt from the lagoon. Gardeners clip hibiscus hedges, and somewhere down the street, a nanny hustles 2 uniformed kids toward a waiting SUV. Cola trots happily beside me as we loop around Palm Shore Estate. I nod at the usual suspects, joggers in matching tracksuits, the elderly man who aggressively waters his already perfect lawn, a young mother pushing a stroller that probably costs more than my rent. Everything is peaceful. Until we turn the corner back toward my duplex. That's when I see him, Asher Khalifa. Standing in his driveway, arms crossed, broad shoulders squared under a fitted black t-shirt, every inch of him radiating that air of carved from granite intimidation. Cole barks happily and pulls toward him like the furry traitor he is. I stumble, but catch myself before I faceplant in front of the most composed man alive. Asher's gaze shifts to me. His expression, as always, is unreadable, until his head tilts slightly, like he's weighing something. Then in that deep, measured voice, he says, "Thanks." I blink. For what? For helping me the other night. The simplicity of it catches me off guard. Not his presence, not his composure, just the fact that the great Asher Khalifa is standing here, voluntarily thanking me. "Oh," I manage, because apparently that's the best my brain can do. "You're welcome." A beat passes, then, because I can't resist, I add, "Though you could have left a note or something. Very inconsiderate of you to disappear like a mysterious shadow assassin." He exhales through his nose, and it's not quite a laugh, but it's close. "Didn't want to wake you." "Mm-hmm. Or maybe you just wanted to maintain your whole mysterious lone wolf aesthetic." The corner of his mouth twitches, almost a smile, but he doesn't take the bait. Instead, he gives a single nod and turns toward his front door. Conversation over. I watch him go, still slightly thrown by the exchange. And as I lead Cola inside, Tammy's voice echoes in my head. "A pattern, Karina. One of these days, you're going to meet your match." I roll my eyes at the memory, but deep down, I know she might be right. The key Asher gave me sits heavier in my pocket than it should. Maybe it's because it's sleek, matte black, and clearly custom. Or maybe it's because it feels like holding access to something he doesn't hand out lightly. By 8:30 p.m., Palm Shore Estate is settling into its quiet rhythm. Soft lighting spilling from manicured gardens. The hum of a few late-night drivers returning home. Across the street, Asher's SUV is gone. Then Cola and I cross over, his nails clicking on the smooth stone path that leads up to the front door. The lock turns with a smooth click, and I step into a home that smells faintly of cedar and something sharper. His cologne, lingering like he's still here. The interior is exactly what I expected. Dark, clean lines, expensive without being showy. Black leather couches, brushed steel fixtures, and an almost obsessive lack of clutter. The kind of place where a misplaced mug would feel like a crime scene. "All right, Cola," I whisper, dropping my bag by the door. "Mission, guard the broody billionaire's lair has begun." He wags his tail and trots off to sniff every corner of the living room. I curl up on the couch with my laptop, telling myself this will be an easy night. Just stay here, keep the place occupied, call him or the police, if anything strange happens. Simple. But by 10:47 p.m., the quiet feels too quiet. I'm in the kitchen refilling my tea when I hear it. A faint sound, a scrape, soft but distinct, coming from the side of the house. I freeze. Cola's ears perk, his body going still. A low rumble starts in his throat. I move toward the living room, heart ticking faster. There it is again, metal against metal. Not loud enough to be casual, loud enough to be deliberate. Cola, I whisper, and he moves with me toward the front window. I peek through the blinds. A shadow moves along the far edge of the property, just beyond the glow of the garden lamps. My first instinct is to call Asher, but before I can reach for my phone, there's another sound, this time at the back door. The doorknob turns. Cola barks sharply, his deep voice exploding in, this time at the back door. The doorknob turns. Cola barks sharply, his deep voice exploding into the quiet. I fumble for my phone, adrenaline spiking. The door doesn't open, but the sound of retreating footsteps makes my pulse slam in my ears. Then, headlights. Asher's SUV turns into the driveway, engine humming low. He's out of the car before it's even fully stopped, moving fast, eyes scanning every angle of the house. His gaze lands on me through the window, and I've never been so relieved to see his scowl. I open the door before he can knock. Someone was trying to get in, side door. Cola heard it first. His eyes are sharp, calculating, scanning me head to toe before shifting to the dog. You okay? I nod, but my voice shakes. Yeah, just... He's already moving, disappearing around the side of the house. I hover in the doorway, the night pressing in around me. By the time he returns, his expression is darker, tighter. Whoever it was, they're gone, he says. That's not exactly comforting, I mutter. He steps past me into the house, shutting the door behind him with a deliberate click. From now on, you don't open this door for anyone unless it's me. And if anything feels off, you call. No hesitation. I swallow. Okay. He studies me for a beat longer, like he's trying to decide how much to say. Finally, this is why I asked you to be here, because I knew it was a possibility. I blink. A possibility? Asher, what exactly do you do? His gaze holds mine, steady and unreadable. Nothing you need to worry about, which of course makes me worry more. Later, when he finally leaves again, after checking every lock twice and setting an alarm system I didn't even notice before, I sit back on his couch, Cola pressed against my leg. I tell myself this was a one-off, just bad timing. But deep down, I know better. Whatever Asher Khalifa is involved in, it's not the kind of thing you walk away from unscathed. I didn't sleep much. Every creak of the house, every brush of wind against the glass, every faint hum of the alarm system had me half sitting up, scanning the shadows. Cola, of course, snored like nothing had happened. By morning, Lagos sunlight spilled through the living room windows, bright and warm, like it could erase the tension of the night before. It didn't. I was just pouring water into Cola's bowl when the sound of an engine made me look up. Asher's SUV pulled into the driveway. He was out of the car in seconds, black t-shirt, dark jeans, hair still damp from a shower. There was no hesitation in his stride, just quiet, focused purpose. He didn't knock, he used his key. You're here early, I said, trying to sound casual even as my pulse picked up. His eyes swept the room before settling on me. I told you I'd be back first thing. You also told me I didn't need to worry, I said, folding my arms. Last night felt a lot like I should be worried. He exhaled slowly, setting his keys on the counter. Karina. No, I cut in. You don't get to brush this off. Someone tried to get in. That doesn't happen in Palm Shore. So what's going on? And don't tell me it's nothing. A muscle ticked in his jaw. He looked at me for a long moment, and I knew, really knew, that whatever he was about to say wasn't something he told just anyone. Finally, he spoke. The work I do, it's not 9 to 5, and it's not always clean. I've built a lot of security into my life, but every so often, something from my past finds a way to show up. I swallowed. So last night wasn't random, he finished. That landed like a weight between us. I stepped closer. You mean to tell me that whoever that was, they were here for you? His gaze didn't waver. Yes. My stomach turned. And you asked me to stay here? Because I knew I could keep you safe, he said sharply, the steel in his voice cutting through mine. If you'd been across the street and something happened, I wouldn't have been there in time. Here, I can control the space. I stared at him. You were protecting me. I am protecting you, he corrected. That's not changing. For a moment, we just stood there. His eyes locked on mine, and I realized he meant it, not as some macho posturing, but as a fact, a promise. Something in my chest eased. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Okay, I believe you. He searched my face like he was making sure I meant it. Then his shoulders eased, just slightly. Good, he said, because I need you to listen to me. No opening the door unless it's me. No going out after dark unless I'm with you. And if anything feels wrong, you call me first. I nodded. Got it. He stepped back, but not before his hand brushed my arm, a small, steady contact that was over almost as soon as it began. You're safe here, Karina. I'll make sure of it. Something in the way he said it made me believe him completely. And that was almost more dangerous than whoever had been outside last night. The day passed quietly. Too quietly. Since the break-in, Asher had been around more, checking the locks, adjusting the alarm system, pacing the perimeter like he was memorizing every inch. I caught him looking at me more often too, though never long enough for me to call him out on it. By evening, I was curled on his couch, laptop on my knees, pretending to write but mostly just watching him. He was at the kitchen counter, sleeves pushed up, forearms flexing as he poured tea into 2 mugs. When he brought one over and set it in front of me, I blinked. Tea? From you? You've been jumpy all day, he said simply. I wouldn't call it jumpy, I muttered. More like cautious. He didn't answer. Just settled into the armchair opposite me. The silence stretched. Not uncomfortable exactly, but full of something unspoken. Finally, he broke it. Karina, I know I wasn't exactly welcoming when you moved in. I raised a brow. You mean when you glared at me in the driveway and spoke in single syllables? The corner of his mouth twitched. Yeah, that. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. It wasn't personal. I've spent a long time keeping people at arm's length. Sometimes it's safer that way. I studied him, the shadows from the warm lamplight cutting along his jaw. Safer for you. And for them, he admitted. The work I've done, the things I've been involved in, they don't mix well with normal life. I've learned that distance is a kind of protection. I softened. So you were mean because you thought it would keep me away. I was mean because I didn't want to care, he said quietly. Caring makes people vulnerable, and I've lost enough to know what that costs. The honesty in his tone took me off guard. This wasn't the polished, composed Asher Khalifa I'd first met. This was the man underneath, stripped of his armor. I set my laptop aside and crossed to him, sitting on the edge of the armchair. You don't have to push me away, I said. I'm not here to make your life harder. If anything, I want to make it better. And if that means being more careful, doing things your way, I can do that. His eyes searched mine for a long moment, as if weighing the truth of my words. Then slowly he nodded. I don't let people in easily, he murmured. But you're already in, Karina, whether I wanted you to be or not. Something in my chest pulled tight, warm and aching. I reached for his hand without thinking. His fingers curled around mine, strong and grounding. The moment stretched, charged with everything we hadn't said. His gaze dropped to my mouth. I felt my breath hitch. When he leaned in, it wasn't rushed. It was deliberate, almost cautious. His lips brushed mine once, then again, lingering longer, until the kiss deepened and heat curled low in my stomach. I shifted into his lap, my hands sliding over his shoulders. He drew me closer, one palm splayed over my lower back, the other cupping my jaw. The kiss turned hungrier, years of restraint giving way to something raw and real. "Karina," he murmured against my mouth, like my name was both a warning and a promise. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." That was all it took. His mouth claimed mine with more urgency, his hands mapping the lines of my body. My fingers slipped under the hem of his shirt, tracing the warmth of his skin, the steady thrum of muscle beneath. When he pulled me closer, I could feel every inch of him, solid, unyielding, but tender in the way he touched me. Clothes became an afterthought, each layer discarded between kisses, until there was nothing between us but heat and the soft glow of the lamp. His touch was reverent, almost careful at first, as though memorizing every curve, every sound I made. I felt the press of his lips along my neck, the trail of his hands from my shoulders to my hips. Every movement was deliberate, a wordless confession of all the things he didn't know how to say out loud. And when we finally came together, it was slow, not hurried or careless, but deep, deliberate, each movement sinking us closer. His forehead pressed to mine, breath mingling with mine, and I felt safe, seen, wanted in a way that went beyond the physical. It wasn't just love-making. It was the breaking down of walls, the acceptance of what we were both too stubborn to admit until now. When it was over, we stayed tangled together, my head against his chest, his fingers tracing slow circles on my back. "Better?" I teased softly, echoing our earlier conversation. His lips brushed my hair. "More than better." And I believed him. The morning light was soft, slipping through Asher's bedroom curtains and pooling across the sheets. I woke first, tucked into the crook of his arm, Kola snoring quietly at the foot of the bed, like he'd declared himself official chaperone. Everything felt different, warmer. Asher stirred, eyes opening slowly, and when they found me, they softened in a way I'd never seen before. No guarded distance, no unreadable wall. Just him, present, open, and mine. "Morning," he murmured. I smiled, brushing a thumb along his jaw. "Morning." We stayed like that for a while, tangled together, speaking in quiet voices and unhurried kisses. There was no rush, no threat pressing in from the outside world. Just us, here, breathing in the peace of a new beginning. Later that week, Asher called me into his home office. His expression was serious but not tense. "It's done," he said simply. I frowned. "What's done?" "The danger," he clarified. "The people who came near the house, they're gone. Permanently. I handled it." I studied him. "Handled? As in?" "As in, you'll never have to worry about it again," he said firmly. Then softer, "You and Kola are safe. Always." The finality in his voice left no room for doubt. For the first time since the night of the break-in, I felt my shoulders truly relax. 2 weeks passed in a quiet rhythm, me splitting my time between my duplex and his place, Kola becoming entirely too comfortable with the run of his immaculate home, and Asher slowly letting me see more of him outside the stoic exterior. It was during one of those slow mornings, just me, tea, and the vague hum of Lagos outside, that I noticed something. Or rather, I didn't notice something. My period was late. I brushed it off at first, but the thought stayed, humming louder in the back of my mind until I couldn't ignore it. A quick pharmacy run later, I was in my bathroom, staring at the little stick in my hand. 2 pink lines. My knees went weak. Pregnant. I sank onto the edge of the tub, Kola resting his chin on my knee as if he knew my world had just tilted on its axis. For days I didn't tell Asher. Not because I thought he'd be angry, but because I didn't know what this would mean for us. New as we were, still figuring each other out. When I finally told him, it was on a quiet evening in his living room. "Asher," I began, my voice shaking. "I need to tell you something, and I don't know how you'll take it." He set down the file he'd been reading, and looked at me with that steady focus that always made me feel like the only thing in the room. Go on. I'm pregnant. The words hung there for a moment. Then a slow, almost disbelieving smile spread across his face. Not a smirk, not his rare amused twitch. This was something full, unguarded, and completely real. You're serious? He asked, his voice low. I nodded, biting my lip. I didn't want to overwhelm you, so I waited. But he crossed the room in 3 strides, cupping my face in his hands. Karina, this is incredible. Tears pricked my eyes. You're not upset? Upset? He gave a short, incredulous laugh. Karina, you're carrying my child. I'm over the moon. And I'm not letting you do this without me. Not as just whatever we've been. I need to take care of you. Both of you. My breath caught as he dropped to one knee. From his pocket, he pulled out a small black velvet box. Inside, the ring caught the light. Simple, elegant, but undeniably beautiful. Karina Paluma, he said, his voice steady but threaded with emotion. I want to be the man who stands beside you, who protects you, who loves you, and who raises our child with you. Marry me. I couldn't hold back the tears then. Yes, I whispered. Then louder, surer, yes. He slid the ring onto my finger, then pulled me into his arms. Kola barked once, tail wagging furiously, as if giving his full approval to this new chapter. Asher pressed a kiss to my forehead. You, me, our baby, and Kola. That's all I need. And for the first time, I knew, really knew, that we were all in. The Lagos sun was soft that morning, spilling gold across the wide windows of our Banana Island home. Outside, the lagoon shimmered. Inside, the air was warm with the smell of fresh bread from the kitchen and the quiet hum of a life we'd built together. I stood in the nursery, rocking slowly from side to side, my hands smoothing the edge of the crib. The room was a calm mix of white, soft gray, and pale yellow, sunlight catching on the framed photographs Asher had insisted on. Our wedding day, Kola sprawled happily at our feet. The sonogram picture from 5 months ago. The two of us laughing on the beach in Lekki, my baby bump obvious under my dress. The bump was gone now. Instead, I held our daughter, tiny, perfect, wrapped in a soft cotton blanket, her little breath steady against my chest, her fingers curled around mine like she'd already decided she wasn't letting go. Kola lay near the crib, ears perked, watching every movement with the solemnity of a bodyguard. He had taken his new role seriously from the moment we brought her home, patrolling the hallway, sleeping in the doorway of the nursery, and giving anyone who came too close a suspicious sniff. I heard the soft sound of footsteps, then felt Asher's arms circle me from behind. She's asleep, he murmured, his voice warm against my ear. For now, I whispered, leaning back into him. You should see the way Kola glares at me if I so much as adjust her blanket. I felt his low laugh rumble through my back. Good. Means he's learning from me. I turned to look at him, catching that rare, completely unguarded smile, the one that still undid me no matter how many times I saw it. He kissed my temple, then brushed a finger gently along our daughter's tiny cheek. She looks like you, he said softly. She has your eyes, I countered. His gaze lingered on her for a long moment before meeting mine again. Karina, this is everything I didn't know I needed. You, her, this. I felt my throat tighten. We made it, Asher. He kissed me then, slow, certain, before pulling back just enough to rest his forehead against mine. Always, he said. I'll always take care of you. Both of you. And Kola, of course, he added with a glance toward the dog, who huffed like he approved of the mention. Outside, the day was beginning, but in here, time felt suspended. Just me, Asher, our daughter, and the steady, protective presence of Kola. It wasn't just a happy ending. It was our forever.